I always knew like deep down there was like a passion to do a lot more, tell deeper stories, connect with people. And so on my lunch breaks, I would just like run out and pitch random ideas to.
Welcome to Talk Tuesday, a webinar series where we explore what it takes to kickstart new projects, launch new products, and create the right conditions for team success. I'm Eric Gorman, founder of Wiley, an agency that helps teams innovate faster with less risk through our sprint workshops and training. We help teams get aligned, eliminate unproductive meetings, and make rapid progress using our interactive, repeatable sprint workshops. Skill up with our training at wearewiley.com. And now to our guest. It's now my great pleasure to introduce my very special guest and close friend, Phil Jones, brand creative lead at Meow Wolf. Welcome, Phil.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so quick intro for Phil. That was the quick and dirty. You get the real intro now. So Phil, you and I have known each other back since I think 2010 or 11. Does that sound about right to you? I was trying to.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Somewhere around there. We've gone to Europe together, knowing look. You and your amazing better half were at my very awkward proposal. You were my groomsman in my wedding, where you did a perfectly adequate job of balancing out Chelsea's side, so mission accomplished. And I somehow convinced you to join me in a design sprint for a giant corporate where we laughed and cried, and I cherish most of those memories. So it's my almost privilege to get to do an interview with someone I absolutely adore and admire and love like a brother, whose name is forgettable, but whose humor, creativity, and personality are anything but. So welcome, Phil.
Oh, damn, that's good. I love that. I'm going to totally steal that forgettable line. That's amazing.
I thought you might appreciate that. All right, so all business here. We're going to have a fun one. Tell us about yourself, man. Just go where you want to take that.
Yeah. So myself, I was born in Michigan and raised in Kentucky. So really Southern at heart, I guess. And started out my design career. I graduated from Murray State and went back to Louisville and worked at a big ad agency there, Doe Anderson, and started really cutting my teeth in design ad world. Then I joined a small design firm where we were doing, installation pieces and in water park, theme park design, and that was like graphics, branding, whatever. And then I met my now wife and decided to take whatever job I could find and get closer to her. So I took a job in Charlotte, continued down the path of the ad world. And there we spent 2 years and did some exploration of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and became an art director / designer, and was exploring that career path alongside, the fear of going to a new area that was, well known for design, being Minneapolis. And when we moved up here, I really set out to tell a different story with my work. And so I started creating products, consumer products that would sit on your shelf or sit on your card table and would tell a story, a funny one, be it that. And, I found a bunch of companies that made those type of products, tried to sell a bunch, didn't sell a bunch. So only sold one, out of a 3-month experiment where I was doing a product design every day. And so that was always kind of in the back of my head as a way forward creatively. And so pursuing advertising was kind of the mainstay, bread and butter, design ads. And that happened for about 13 years. And then I met a guy who founded a company based out of The Onion, and he was one of the original Onion founders, and created a consumer brand product company called 30 Watt, and asked me to come lead their creative team. And so I took the leap and started designing consumer products for mass retail, pitching to Targets and Walmarts and yada, yada, yada. And that got me really interested in working in collaboration with these giant corporations, because the realization that they're looking for creative, they're looking for partnerships, they're looking for better ideas, really, stirred my pot and got me excited about the potential there. And along that way, I met a group called Meow Wolf, and they were setting up their next permanent exhibition in Vegas that was a giant grocery store, and contacted us to do a partnership. And I ran full force at that, fell in love with what they were doing, and ended up leaving 30 Watt to pursue Meow Wolf full time, and have been working with them ever since, designing products. And then I was named brand creative lead, where I'm also overseeing thank you. Thank you. Where I'm overseeing their, like the brand expansion, talking about story universe, developing all types of facets, from customer interaction to literally still designing the products that go on the shelves at Omega Mart or across all our exhibitions. And have just found a dream job I didn't realize, and quite frankly, didn't exist for most of my career. And I'm now continuing on to keep, developing this burgeoning new creative group. That's my story.
Sticking to it. Well, we're going to dig into Meow Wolf in a little bit, because this whole interview and some could easily be devoted to just that topic. And a giant grocery store is maybe not the best descriptor of what that is all about. That's just, if that is true, it's true. And there's a lot more to the story for those that maybe aren't familiar with Omega Mart. But I want to talk a little bit about maybe some of the early days. Can you talk about that dogged pursuit of honing your craft, finding your voice in the early days? You touched on that you spent some time in places that weren't maybe the best fit, maybe didn't know what to do with you. Can you speak to that, those early days?
Yeah, absolutely. The early days were a very confusing time, I think, as a young creative, when you don't have the typical mentorship that I originally had at my first job. I was really pursuing my own passions and trying to replicate what I saw was successful creatives in the field. And so in doing so, I was really chasing after some of the most prestigious awards that were available in the ad world. People that I admired had won those. And so what I would do is really look at their work and break down what they did in order to achieve those. And I think in the back of my head, I knew that, a young guy from Kentucky wasn't the most likely candidate to receive a lot of those awards. But I knew that the pursuit of those goals was going to land me in a place that was better suited for my brain and how I worked. And so as much as I, devoted my time to doing client-facing work and doing the best job possible, I always knew, like, deep down there was a passion to do a lot more, tell deeper stories, connect with people. And so on my lunch breaks, I would just run out and pitch random ideas to other companies, ways to promote themselves, interesting, fun, treatments of, say, a business card for a yoga studio or whatnot. These were all just passion projects that I wanted to get out into the world, and also to be able to just point back and show the world how I thought and what I could do for a company if they gave me the time and space and permission. So that pursuit honestly has been the real cornerstone of my entire career. I think I said earlier, it's like I was training for this current position I have my entire life, not knowing that it existed. and that was the dogged pursuit of trying to do more creative work, even if it meant spending my personal time in pursuit of that. So yeah, those sacrifices ended up paying off, and I recognize that that was a gamble that I was taking, but I think that framing all those pursuits up correctly and telling the right story about them always meant that I was moving forward. And at least I felt comfortable knowing that.
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, it sounds like your belief in yourself combined with a very disciplined approach. So you felt you were growing, even if maybe at the time the career didn't reflect that. So kind of really being intrinsically motivated to stay the course.
Exactly. There wasn't a lot of feedback. The feedback I was getting internally was mixed at best. I was never pursuing these things only for myself. I would always bring them to my boss beforehand and say, would we ever bring this in-house? And when they said no, then I asked permission. We went out and we did it on our own. But it was always in pursuit of making the company better and in doing better work for whoever I was working with, even if I didn't believe in exactly the mission that they were pursuing. It was really about being a good company person too, because I thought that was I still think that's a very important thing when you're taking a job, is to continue to try and make the place you're working better and make your teammates feel better about the place they're working at. And so that was always really important for me. And then if that was not met with excitement, then that, being allowed to pursue that was also a place. I wanted to work at a place that allowed me to at least have that outlet when I wasn't getting it in the normal 9 to 5. And I've been lucky enough to have those type of places, regardless of like the output of the place itself. So feel very lucky.
How important has your better half been, Alexis? She's amazing, accomplished. Really, we're all living in her shadow, right? I jest, but I'm also serious. She's incredible. She's also on my short list of future interviewees, so good. I'm looking for that. But talk to me about how, she played a role in your early career, especially, and even to this day.
Sure. Well, yeah, no doubt she changed the trajectory of my life, period. And, there's so many things I can attribute to her, and my mental stability, my sense of home, my sense of comfort. She provided all of that, right away. And she recognized at a very late stage, we're talking like I was 24 years old, 25 years old. And she was watching me struggle with ADHD. I had never known that was a factor in my life, and didn't realize why I struggled in school so badly. It didn't mean I was struggling in business at all. I was actually excelling, but it was also to my detriment, because with any attention deficit issue, you are in a panic state a lot of the time. You're constantly pushing deadlines off, and then panic. You sharpen your focus, and then you don't sleep, and that is really a recipe for disaster. And so, her witnessing that and realizing what was going on, she was like, "Not everybody has it this hard," and that was really a gift early on, where she recognized that, and I got the help, the medication, like the therapy that I needed in order to help me like channel my creativity even better and more fluidly. So yeah, I mean, that started me off onto a path that still goes today. And then watching her pursue her career. She came up to Minneapolis for school, and she was studying public health. Public health was not the pursuit that she, I think, intended in the very beginning, and so she switched careers and started to focus on being a producer. And that was really in light of me working with some of the best producers I've ever worked with, and was like, this is the same skill set. And she said, I don't need your help. I'm going to go do this. And then, yeah, like you said, we're all chasing her now. Like, she just took off, made her own career, got to work at all the places that I was dying to work at. She jumped in right away, and I had been pursuing many of these places for years. And she just walked right in and was doing some of the best work, I think, in this city, in this country. And like, she has really blossomed into her own professional career. She's incredibly competent, and I just love when I get to work with her on projects. And I just, yeah, I would be nowhere without her. I'd probably be still same here, scrapping my life together, my projects together, late at night, desperate, flop sweat, awful. Yeah, no, life is much better on the other side.
You and me both, my friend. Yeah, we've had that problem for sure. Like, yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, Chelsea brings me the stability I need in my life. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
All right, so you have,
Amazing.
Yeah, and she's awesome. So yeah, we'll definitely a future interview with Alexis is in order, to say the least. But you have, for those that don't know, and your website is Phil Design Art, or is it Phil Jones Design Art? It's phildesignart.com.
Phil Design Art. Yeah, it's not up to date, but yeah,
I know. I mean, I still go back there when I'm like, I need some inspiration, or I'll just like go hunt some stuff for years down, and then just feel happy again and inspired and ready to take on the world. But you've made some incredible and ridiculous creations over the years, and you talked about this, like this pursuit of personal projects because you believed in yourself and you were honing your craft even when your work didn't necessarily allow for that to come out. You still pursued it. Do you have a favorite personal project? That's probably unfair and difficult to ask, but is there one that's like, yeah, I'm really proud of that, or I really just think it's hilarious?
Yeah, it's like picking your children. There are, I can talk about a few, like that always pop out in my mind. One is a little bit maybe more buried, but was one where I really wanted to showcase what it meant to find inspiration in other people's work. I think all too often in advertising, and really the world in general, is that we tend to get inspired by somebody's work and then we reinterpret it almost exactly as it was done in the first place. And I think in this world we live in now, that reinterpretation can go more viral than the original, which really is disheartening to those pursuing different, pursuing very oddly original ways of thinking. And so my pursuit of that was to try and replicate the feeling that I got from a project. And it was a guy, this is going to date me, back in, Tumblr days. There was a great Tumblr blog that I absolutely loved, and it was a guy that it was called Running Away from the Camera. And the project was just him. He was like a field photographer, and all he would do is set the timer to the longest timer and then run away from the camera and see how far he could get from it. And I just loved that project so much. It was so silly and repeatable, but I never got tired of looking at the images of him kind of, trotting through like random, like high bush stuff or whatever it was. So it really just stuck with me. And so I wanted to take that inspiration and make a project of my own. And what I came up with was called Running from Transitions, which is a piece that is a side to side run where I take off running in the scene, and the transition is literally right behind me for the next scene, which then I come from that side running away from the next scene as it's chasing me down. And it was just over and over and over again. And it was very simple concept. But I think about that one a lot because of how simple it was and how connected it is to a art piece that I found wildly inspirational. So moments like that really, to me, like shape my career, are those little like blips where I have a challenge and I set that challenge and then I meet it and answer it. And I think that most of my pursuits have been in that shaping, that where I set out to capture an idea, an essence of what I find interesting. And then I allow myself that time to do the creative exploration of how can I answer this problem. And then when I put up the solution or I create the solution, I have a gauge as to was it good? And I think with most art, it doesn't have to work. And with design, it has to work. If in certain instances, like if somebody can't read a menu, then it's not a good menu. If you can't find a bathroom, then it's not good wayfinding. These are structures that we built into our modern world. And if they don't work, design can really fail the person and the pursuit or the needs. And I take that aspect of everything that I do and put it over top of the artwork that I pursue and make sure that I am solving for the problem that I've either invented, created out of thin air, or just saw and observed. I want to make sure that I have a measurement tool in order to tell you if I was successful or not. Because I think outside of that, you're just looking at all my work from an aesthetic standpoint. I think from an aesthetic standpoint, you could like me or hate me. I'm not the most aesthetically pleasing person when it comes to like design. I don't chase design trends. I never have, never will. And really try and focus on the voice that the project is giving off and pursuing that. And that means usually like an interpretation of design language. And that kind of parlays into what I'm doing now with the products that I make for Omega Mart and for Meow Wolf, is that they're based in a reality. When I make here, I've got one nearby, but this was one pursuit where it was like, I want to make a slide sandal. We have a lot of tourists that are going to pools before and after their trips to Omega Mart. We need them to have products that they can carry to the pool, that they can utilize. And so we were starting to pursue, like, what would it be to make a slide sandal? And I just started looking around for shapes that would make that sandal and would be interesting for a grocery store to carry. And so walking through the grocery store, seeing egg cartons, I was just like, I love the idea of just like chopping them, like the top comes off and now you've got the slide, like it's ready made. And does that make sense? And then, once I have this as a concept, now I'm going in and I'm taking what already exists. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I'm trying to make this so that it's instantaneous. That's an egg carton. And so even looking at like the false latches that would normally be on an egg carton, like making sure that this exists so that these tabs look very much like the catches on the egg cartons. Egg cartons have like a type of language already, and so it's refrigeration after use, and these require no refrigeration. And then the grade A cobbler does it. It's little moments where you can kind of blend the worlds, but I'm not here to like reinvent the wheel. I'm trying my best to blend the two together and bring that to life. And I think that in itself was a success. So yeah, all things I pursue usually have like an end goal and an understanding, an observation that I'm trying to obtain. And then can I get to that? I'm not worried about if you think it's beautiful or not. I'm worried about, did I achieve the goal?
I'm just, yeah, I love you even more if that's possible, because when I see like that's, some people would see that and say, oh, a trivial product, you made a little slip up. I see the thinking and the story and the thought, the brilliance behind it. And I'm just like, it just clicks for me. Like, I don't know, the designer in me, whatever, I just can so appreciate the brilliance and the thinking. And I'm also dying laughing because I watched recently in preparation for this interview, the deadpan storytelling and video you did about that very product. And so it's so perfect that you had that example. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I could just go on and on. That's just one tiny example of the body of brilliant work that I love. It's part of what I love about you, Phil. So
thank you.
No, that's so brilliant. Well, you mentioned Omega Mart. Let's talk more about that. That's a perfect segue.
Sure.
Yeah, just go. Tell me about the work that you're doing and Meow Wolf. Talk about Omega Mart. Yeah. Lay it out there.
So yeah, Omega Mart, for people who don't know what we're talking about, is it's technically the third permanent installation that we've done. It came online though prior to Denver, so it is by opening standards the second, but it was the third build, and it is it's a permanent exhibit in Las Vegas, and it's a giant complex. It's in Area 15, which is a partner building, and there are many different spaces, and we're kind of the cornerstone of that building.
Super.
And it's all immersive art, everything you could ever want. And then our exhibit is, the front looks like a giant grocery store. And when you go in and see the products, there's just something a little off. And
the best way possible.
Right. You don't quite know what's going on. And it really begs to be explored. And that's the whole point of any Meow Wolf, is really that we want you to be your own guide. We're there. We have people there on the ground that can make it more interesting and bring things to life and play out scenes. But the reality of our exhibitions is that we want you to feel empowered. It's the moment when adults can be kids again, and when kids can play as adults, and they can think and they can dream and believe that this is the new reality that we're living in. And so when you walk into this space, you're met with the option to become an Omega Mart employee, and you go through training and you understand what's going on, and they explain that there's anomalies that happen within the store. What are those anomalies and what's happening? And you go deeper and deeper into the story world once you leave the store. The people working the store aren't allowed to let you know about those portals, but they exist.
Mm-hmm.
And then you are transported from the store into a completely different world. You crawl through the tent, and all of a sudden you're in an office. You go through the cooler, and you're inside of a giant desert scene. and you're really making sense of what's the deeper story lore here. And that story runs all the way to the corporate offices of Dram Corp, who run Omega Mart, and they're kind of evil, and they're mining material called Source, and Source is a protected material that they're trying to own completely. Yet ancient tribes have been protecting this Source well for many, many centuries, and now it's being exploited for consumer gains and for capitalism. And there are factions within that are trying to fight back against Omega Mart. The owner has its own storyline. There's just an incredible amount, probably 30 plus hours of narrative content built into our exhibits that you can dive into. Then on top of that, if you don't want to get that deep, it's all art. It's all handmade art. Artists across the world, Vegas-based artists are being brought in and creating things in the space. We've got our own Meow Wolf artists that are creating these beautiful pieces of art. You can feel the energy inside the pieces. You can see the fingerprints in them. And I think that that's what we really, really love about creating these spaces, is that it does feel like humans were here making this incredible journey together. And so I had been focused on the front half, really the products on the shelves. And again, going back to interpretation, I'm interpreting what would exist in a grocery store. I'm looking at the cereal aisle and saying, what does a Mega Mart cereals, what do they offer? What does the toy section offer in our grocery store? Because most grocery stores are lame when it comes to toys. And so we got to be equally as lame and fun. And so how do we do that? We continue to kind of mine out the content from existing stores and then transpose it onto our existing properties and try and think up and dream up worlds, because each one of these could come from another company that only sells exclusively at Omega Mart and could open up an entire story world just based on one product alone. So for me, it's everything that my ADHD brain has ever wanted. And also, I can build systems in that allow for the next generation of designers and artists to come in and work within the constructs that I've created that are just so obvious. One being for 4th of July, grocery stores will sell fireworks. And so we wanted to do our own version, and we dressed up candles to look like fireworks, and we called them slow fireworks. And it's a chance to have an indoor celebration for 4th of July, celebrate safely each and every year. And this construct was created, the brand was created, everything was done in line with the TNT firework displays that everybody knows and sees. But now it's just beautiful handcrafted candles made in Las Vegas. And they are, screaming Patriot Eagle puke and all kinds of different designs that mimic fireworks. And again, that allows for other designers to come in and do their take on what feels like an insane genre of design. And so it offers that play. So that's what I'm constantly pursuing within the store, is creating new and viable concepts that will allow for more people to play in the space.
So good. I've been to the one in Vegas. You're the one that is your charge, right? You and your team, and just a playground, the most beautiful, immersive, playful, creative playground that for adults. It is like a Disneyland in terms of the quality of the experience. It's not the scale, which it's actually to me a good thing. I spent a solid 3 hours there and just could have spent way more time. Just like every single product on the storefront piece has got its own story and thoughtfulness that you can also purchase, right? And then, but the behind the scenes and the backstory, the lore is just exceptional. I'm selling it for you and for Meow Wolf, but it doesn't need to be sold. Once you've got a taste for it, you're hooked. It's amazing. So we have just a few minutes left, or a couple of minutes left. If I can steal some more of your time,
steal more.
I will take it. Talk to us about how you basically pay it forward to young creatives and artists. I know that's a big ethos, a big belief of yours to pay it forward. What are some of the things that you maybe tell aspiring creatives who are still kind of finding their voice, honing their craft?
Sure. I absolutely. You know me all too well. This is a huge pursuit of mine. I love when I'm connected with young energy again, and I'm not that old yet, a little old, but like 42. But like reconnecting with people that are just out of school. This is their first job, or they're pursuing their first job. That excitement is something that it's so palpable. And when you feel it, like, I can't help but encourage them to continue to pursue. And what my only real advice is that the story you're telling is the most important piece. It has nothing to do with your portfolio. Your portfolio is not the story. It just houses the story. And so looking at a condensed offering, you should only have the best of the best work that you're proud to talk to from beginning to end. What's the problem that you set out to solve? What's the solution you proposed, and how did it end up? And what I'm less concerned about always is how it ended up, because that aspect of it is something that everybody can be taught, and that craft can be honed. And that is what my job is in the end when it comes to being a creative director, is that I am trying to take their concept and bring it to where they see it in their own head. Because a lot of creatives, they start off with really great taste, but functionally speaking, they don't know how to get it to that level yet. And so they're constantly just reinterpreting what they've seen out in the world. A lot of folks tend to focus on just the aesthetic side of it, where it's like, I want this type of look. And they focus their entire workload on making that look, knowing, in my head, I'm like, you're not there yet. You could be trying to create something that somebody's pursued for 20 years. You don't want to start out that way. What you want to start out with is the story itself. What is the problem you saw? How did you solve it? And those are the ones that I'm most interested in working with, is when they're bringing me different ways in to a solution that even I haven't thought of. Mm-hmm. And that's terribly exciting. And then, the other piece of advice on the other side is that when you find a good mentor, do the work that they're asking of you. Mm-hmm. When I give advice, I'll always take a first meeting and meet up with someone and discuss what they could potentially do better or do more of or pursue. That first encounter is really myself, like, divulging like where they need to focus. And then when they come back and show that they've refocused and they've tried it again, I'm going to pour in more time onto that person. Like, so many stop at that moment because they're either looking for approval, they're just looking to get their work in front of me, whatnot. But when they actually take that advice to the next level, then I will continue to pour in on them. And I think that's pretty common for most everybody when it comes to mentorship, is that you really want to see them pursuing the advice that you're giving them. I think that's one of the most important things to do. And also to just like talk to a lot of people that you don't, and reach out to people that you don't think would ever talk to you back, because you might be surprised. That is, I've spent my entire career just like barging into places I didn't belong and saying, look at my work and let's talk, and and it has really worked out for me. By doing that, I can prove to people how I think when my portfolio doesn't always reflect exactly how I think. Because I think on the other side, when you just send somebody your portfolio, everybody from a professional level is stuck in this situation where we don't know what you actually did and how you contributed. And then there's the catch-22 that I always ran into, which was, if it's just me, then can he work with a team? And so I had to balance constantly bringing my own concepts and ideas to teams to develop them, and then tell the story of how I dreamt this up and then found a team to work with to bring it to life. And, that has been, unfortunately, that's been my uphill battle my whole life. And not to say that it's gone, I still have to convince people with higher paychecks to do the work that I'm proposing. And that is always going to make you a better creative. It's always going to be frustrating, but it's always going to make you better when you have to explain to someone who doesn't know what you're talking about. And talking about relating it back to Alexis, my wife, one of the first interactions, I say fun. It wasn't fun at the time. But I was upset because they didn't see the brilliance of my idea. I was young, I was cocky, I had an ego the size of the room, and they didn't understand, and they did a false equivalency to another idea, and I had to vent. And I told her, like, I can't believe they can't see the brilliance of my idea compared to this idea. And she was like, I don't see the difference. And I got livid, and I had to break it down completely, step by step, why mine was smarter and why, why they should have seen this. And by doing so, she stuck her head in. Get out of here.
Alexis. You're coming next. I'm Steven.
So yeah, when that's exactly it. She, I had to explain to her, and by doing so, it really set me on a course to being better at explaining my ideas. Quite honestly, like, that was the moment where a light bulb went off that says, like, I am trying to explain things to folks that don't have my mindset, that aren't with me in my thoughts, that maybe aren't able to even see the ideas that I have in my head that I'm proposing. And I need to bring them along, not only in the thought process, but also in the execution and why this execution works. And so by doing so, it always will make you better. As frustrating as it is, like, we always joke, it was like, bring your grandmother along for the journey. Like, if you had to explain it to your grandma, like, how are you going to explain it? And if she can't understand it, then maybe you need to think about how you're framing this up or how you're pursuing this idea. So that simplicity speaking is really important. Unless your grandma's an artist, then, well, fuck you. Like, you probably had a great life.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Make it too easy.
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, you down for a follow-up combo, Phil? Because
Sure.
There's a whole bunch of things that we didn't get to.
Okay. Yeah, let's follow up.
We might have to have
this theme rolling.
A whole sub-segment of Phil Jones, Talk Tuesday with Phil Jones.
I'm down.
All right.
Well, I'll interview you the next time. How about that?
No, this is way more fun for me. This is what it's all about me. It's about you, but it's about me. No.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
How can the people keep up with you and your work at Meow Wolf?
I'm trying to be better at posting. I'm not.
That's some good.
I've gotten. I do so much boring behind the scenes work when it comes to again, kind of going back to what we were talking about. Like I just do so much groundwork and so much setup and development in the work I'm pursuing now that it is really hard for me to like, put that stuff out there. I do my best on Instagram. It's not great. But
well, and
I'll have some time to update things, but if nothing else, just keep pursuing, like you just follow Omega Mart and watch, Meow Wolf and you'll see bits and pieces of me all through the brand and definitely through Omega Mart, the voice, because that voice I've definitely learned how to speak fluently, and I just absolutely love it, and kind of embodies everything that I've ever wanted to pursue in design, the design and ad world. So
yeah, it shows through, it shines brightly, it's delightful. And I can't say enough about the experiences, about you. You are just an amazing human being, Phil. I'm very, very lucky and fortunate to have you in my life. And I appreciate you taking time to do this interview. We will keep the combo going. And just thank you from the bottom of my heart. Appreciate you.
God, thank you. Appreciate you forever. I continue to love the work you're doing. Excited that this is happening. I just can't be a bigger fan of Wiley, and you know that. And let's go back to Europe.
Yeah, let's do it. Round two. All right. Well, send Alexis my love, and we'll be in touch again, my brother.
All right. Sounds good.
Take care, Phil.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye.
I'm Jake Knapp, and I'm the creator of the Design Sprint process. I'm the author of this book, Sprints, and I am here at the Wiley offices in Charlotte, North Carolina. This right here, if you were thinking about maybe doing a design sprint with Wiley, this is where you would be, at this table, probably, unless you do it at your office, which is totally an option, but right here in this space with a whiteboard, with a bunch of paper and pens. Basically, they're going to help you think through the problem, get it started, and get a solution tested really rapidly. That's the whole idea with a design sprint. I'd highly recommend, if you're thinking about it, that you do give Wiley a chance to your project. I've worked with these folks a couple times, and they always exceed my expectations. I always do things a little bit better than I could have imagined ahead of time. They're also really nice. So don't tell them I told you that. I try to, keep it cool, but they're super nice people. Anyway, best of luck to you, and try Sprint.